You can begin.
Good evening. My name is Judy Roth, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Hamptons, Shelter Island, and the North Fork. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Waiting for the flag. There it is. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There we go. We are very pleased that the League has been invited to moderate this debate for the candidates for the Suffolk County Legislature. On your left is Manny Villar, and on your right is Ann Welker. And in the right-hand box is our timer, Sue Wilson. Just a word about the League. We are a trusted, nonpartisan, political, national organization. While we do not support candidates or parties, we are directly involved in many issues important to keeping our communities strong. We are respected for the work we do, moderating debates, and for preparing and distributing material that is important to the voters to know about for elections. This is the format of the debate. The order of speaking will be alphabetical. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to each question, and then 1 minute as a rebuttal. And then each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement in the reverse order of how we began. Any questions? Okay. All right. So we have a V and a W, last names. So Mr. Villar will begin with his opening statement.
Okay, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us today and providing this public forum that we're able to speak to the community. And I want to thank everyone that took their time out of their busy lives and evening to watch or during the day at one point whenever they watch this discussion. My name is Manuel Villar, Manny Villar, more commonly known. I'm a East Hampton town resident, Springs, grew up in Springs, the proverbial summer kid. My mom worked at Bohax in the summer times, which is where Cinderella is now. And my dad was a union cement mason, local 780. My grandfather was one of the founding members of that union. Had a wonderful childhood growing up in East Hampton. The background you see here is Clearwater Beach Marina. It's the marina and beach that I grew up in. Went on, completed college, commercial fished my way through college. Then went on with the New York State Park Police, becoming the senior sergeant in the state, retiring after 38 years. And during that time became the founding president of the Police Benevolent Association of New York State. It was New York State's 5th biggest police union. We represented members from Montauk to Buffalo. We were a state level union. Recently retired. Very fortunate after a long career to now have this opportunity to continue my public service. And I am looking forward to serving everybody here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Welker?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Judy and Sue of the League of Women Voters for this opportunity for an exchange of ideas. Thank you to Charles and CTV for filming this. Before we begin, I would just like to take a moment and allow us just a moment to pause and reflect on the events that have taken place in this past week on the global stage. My name is Ann Welker. I'm running for Suffolk County Legislator in District Number 2. This is a seat that has been admirably served by Bridget Fleming over the past 8 years. Bridget has been an admirable voice for the East End. We are so lucky to have had her. I am endorsed by legislator Bridget Fleming. I am endorsed by Congressman Tim Bishop. I am endorsed by State Assemblyman Fred Thiel, by the New York League of Conservation Voters, by the Long Island Sierra Club, by Eleanor's Legacy, and by the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association. I have served as a Southampton Town trustee for the past 6 years. I was elected and then re-elected twice with strong support from this community where I grew up, and I'm proud to reside now. I look forward to being able to bring the skills that I've gained, the lessons I've learned, and the relationships I've built with me to the Suffolk County Legislature. Thank you so much.
Okay, so the first question, I'm going to call you Ann and Manny. The first question will go to Ann. What do you think are the 3 most critical issues facing Suffolk County?
I think the most important issue for us as a county is our wastewater situation. And I will be, if I am fortunate enough to be elected, I will be working to advance the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Act that will fund a continuing revenue stream for upgrades to our septic systems and sewering where appropriate. I also feel that us looking at renewable energy is vitally important, building on our wind, also our solar power. The third thing is that I really think that we are the canaries in the coal mine on the East End, in that sea level rise and climate change are critically important conversations. East Hampton Town in particular has been a leader in the conversation with climate change and sea level rise. At the county level, there's a Suffolk County Coastal Resiliency Initiative that was brought about because the county park at the end of Meadow Lane on Shinnecock Bay in Southampton, the parking lot was crumbling into the bay. There's now an initiative brought forth by the legislators Krupski and Fleming to identify county-owned parcels that are shorefront that we can look to mitigate the effects of climate change with nature-based solutions rather than shore hardening structures, which exacerbate erosion.
Okay. Manny, what do you think are the 3 most critical issues?
So definitely our septic waste management is a tremendous problem. We have to, we have to approve that resolution in the county legislature that was forwarded through the state legislature. We also need to build on that because even though it's a good start, it's not the end all. We should be looking to utilize the federal clean water funds out of the $2 billion federal clean water fund for septic waste mitigation. We also have to deal with our overall infrastructure. County Road 39 is a mess. It's having an adverse impact. We have an affordability problem that doesn't only extend to housing, but additionally extends to affordable workspace. We can't convince people to use Long Island Railroad if they don't have an affordable workspace so that they can have a shop and leave their equipment and leave their tools. So we have to address multiple issues at once. We also need to understand that New York State is facing an $8 billion deficit next year. That's going to have an adverse impact on our county budget. So we need to have a thorough introspective look into the county operations. We know the county got hacked for a lack of being properly managed, and it's cost upwards of $18 million already on for something that could have been a nominal fix for a few $100,000. So these are all things we need to do. They're all issues. They all impact people's livelihoods in their lives. And we need to have an overall, it's combination energy, environment, infrastructure, traffic, housing, and we need to have a broad-based look, a broad-based understanding of how government works and the ability to do that.
Okay. If you want, you can have a 1-minute rebuttal, or we can just move on. Okay. I think we're going to move on. Okay. So this next question, Manny will start it. Would you support proposals for additional wind farm initiatives in county waters? And what do you think of the one being built in Wainscott?
So here's the problem we have. We currently right now have a very narrow tunnel vision view of renewable energy, and all renewables have a part in the field for the ultimate elimination of fossil fuels. But we also should be looking at other up and coming renewable energies. Green hydrogen is a classic example. I'm involved with a group that's working on developing green hydrogen, both for the development of it as well as storage, which will be a reliable, steady, continuous 24/7 fuel source. We know we do have problems with the battery storage and where we keep the energy storage from our wind and solar. We know the commercial fishermen all have a problem with the windmills the windmills offshore, that it will possibly have an adverse impact on them. And there's also issues of marine mammals and bird kills. So, we need to have a real broad-based, wholehearted, full-throated look at all our renewable energies, both current and up and coming, so we can develop a plan moving forward for our entire community. We develop that infrastructure now, as opposed to trying to chase the technology after the technology is available. So we need to really have an in-depth, full-throated understanding of all our renewable energies and all our potential options and resources. And we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Anne?
So the question was, would you support additional wind farms in county waters?
Yes.
So to be clear, New York State is actually New York State waters where the wind farms are sited. The county actually manages some portions for aquaculture in Connick and Gardner's Bay, but those are New York State waters as well. So we're actually looking at state waters when we look at wind farms. The wind farms that are currently in place, and as we look to Europe as well for taking the lead on wind energy, we see much that we have to learn from these areas, and we need to transition away from our fossil fuels in light of climate change and particularly sea level rise. So I am a strong proponent for wind farms, and they just have to be properly placed. And as my opponent did mention, there is concern about the marine mammals, but studies have shown by NOAA that it actually is more the shipping traffic than wind farms that have caused more of a problem for marine mammals. The wind farm that is in place or working to, or is under construction in Wainscott will be coming on board in the next several months. And I feel that it's exciting for this community as we look forward to wind energy.
Okay. The next question goes back to Anne.
I'm sorry. Could I get
Go ahead,
one?
rebuttal. Yes.
Yes, please. Recently, NYSERDA, the New York State the state agency that regulates fees for wind farms, has denied a request by the wind farm developers. So there is a lot of discussion now that future development of wind farms potentially could be in jeopardy. So, I do, we know electric rates on Long Island are oppressive. So we really need to ensure that we're investing in renewable energies that are not going to add to the economic degradation of our communities. Anything that raises the cost, it's a double whammy. You need to get rid of fossil fuels. We need to move forward, but at the same time, we need not to break the bank of our hardworking individuals who live in our communities. And the study on marine mammals, well, there's a lot of studies out there. I talk to the commercial fishermen all the time, and they seem to have a much, much different opinion than NOAA, and that's not a surprise.
So may I just,
yes.
I might not take a whole minute, but I just wanted to address the commercial fishermen aspect of this. There does need to be the commercial fishermen in Rhode Island and I believe Massachusetts have been compensated by wind farms. That needs to be addressed in New York. And that's something that if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the legislature, I will be looking into and working on behalf of the commercial fishermen for this. Thank you.
Okay. The next question for Anne. What measures do you think the county can support to reduce the sale and distribution of illicit drugs in the area?
So that is such a difficult topic and a very problematic one indeed. There are, I believe, 33, when I attended the Suffolk County Legislature meeting the other day, the committee meeting, I believe that the presentation by the sheriffs was that there were 33 open positions, unfilled positions in the deputy sheriff's department. And that those positions need to be filled. I might not be quite right with the number, but there are some vacancies within Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. Those positions need to be filled. And I think, so that would be one aspect of things, making sure that our police are fully funded and fully trained, especially with Narcan training, but to go after the drug dealers that are bringing the illicit drugs to the East End. I think we just have to have more Hispanic speaking police that are trained so that they can interface with members of our community in the best way possible. And I also believe that there need to be, there was a pilot program that was done in Ithaca that a licensed social worker was brought on board and was part of the police department. And there often is mental illness or substance abuse that is tied into many of these drug arrests. And thank you, that the social worker made a big difference in that.
Manny?
So I have a 38-year career in law enforcement, and as I said earlier, I represented a big police union. I also neglected to say that I have the endorsement of every law enforcement union in the county, with the exception of Suffolk PBA. So I have these lieutenants, captains, sergeants, deputy sheriffs, corrections, as well as Nassau County and state troopers as well. So the drug problem is a multifaceted problem. Some of it has to do with relaxing of state laws, raise the age, bail reform, and the decriminalization of marijuana all play into this. The defund the police movement, which Bridget Fleming did support, dramatically reduced funding for training for police officers nationwide. The movement was probably the singular worst thing for law enforcement, because cops still got their salaries, they still got their pensions, but the battle has always been with management, and I know because I was on the opposite side of the table, is dedicating funding for training and to increase staffing during peak times and seasons. We also need to look at our Department of Social Services and other county agencies. There's been a dramatic reduction in county employees on multiple levels. We need to bring that staffing up to level. We need to get them all properly trained, and we need to be innovative as well. The problem is not a Hispanic problem. It's a problem for everybody, and it's an everybody problem. And we need to address all our communities, regardless of ethnic culture. We need to work within those communities, and we need to ensure that our police officers and investigators all have the training that they need to be able to address this issue. And I can go on this issue for hours. Thank you.
I'd just like to make sure that we're clear on one thing, or maybe a couple. My opponent stated that Legislator Fleming supported the defund the police. That is simply not true. So I'd like to just clear that for the record. And when I was mentioning that we needed to have our police, some of them be Hispanic speaking, I was most certainly not targeting any culture. I was merely saying that if there's a significant Hispanic population in Suffolk County, and having police that speak Spanish on our force is an important communication tool.
Okay. The next question, we start with Manny. How can the county work with the East End on affordable housing initiatives?
So we're very fortunate, and we're a victim of our own making. We have a second homeowner economy that has driven up the cost of homes. There's a tipping point where there's enough second homeowners with a disposable income that far exceeds our local communities, where housing eventually becomes unaffordable. Because of that unaffordability, we have more people moving out of town and are now commuting into town, as opposed to having a resident workforce. We cannot build our way out of this mess that we're in. There's not enough land. We can't build enough houses. And I don't think anybody believes that, housing initiatives that are multi-family, 6-story buildings are, and I'm not suggesting anybody here does, but would be a solution to that. So we need to work as a county to create an economic environment where we can create affordable workspace. We can create jobs that are good paying jobs, that we have a highly educated community. I have 6 kids. They all went to college. They all got great degrees. But no one can afford to live here. My oldest lives in Wilmington, North Carolina with my 2 grandchildren. And he's living very well. He's living the life there that he lived here as a child. So we need to really invest in our communities and work with our town on zoning. We need to work with our local business community, and we need to work with our developers to try and create these work areas that can bring high-paying, high-yielding jobs that are commensurable somewhat to at least with the second homeowner economy, which is what has driven up the cost of housing.
Anne?
So there is a proposition or an initiative that is taking place, but hasn't made it as far as it might at this point. There are H-72, I believe is the right term, properties that are taken over by the county for lack of payment in taxes. And these properties it was brought to the attention of, it was brought to the county by the towns that the towns didn't have access to the knowledge of the sales of these properties. And so there's an initiative that the towns and not-for-profits there will be a list compiled of these properties when they become available due to lack of payment of taxes. And towns and not-for-profits will become informed about them so that they can then make those purchases for workforce housing. And they're not sold to developers, so it gives an extra initiative. The county can also work to pass, as I stated previously, to advance the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Act. Part of that is for upgrading septics, but part of it is also for sewering. Densely populated downtown areas, where appropriate, are just a great situation for sewering, because you can put second floor apartments, and that did exist in Southampton Village, but due to the lack of sewering there, those apartments had to be removed. The third thing is with accessory structures, the county can again work for upgrading septic systems for these properties.
Rebuttal?
Yes. So last I checked, I think there were 4 houses in Southampton, none in East Hampton, on the 72 program, that went to actually tax sale last year. This is not, like I said, this is not a problem we can build. We can build our way out of. There's a dire need. We have young professionals that are living in campers during the summertime because they can't find a summer rental. And they have a winter rental, and they got to move back to their parents' house and live in campers in their driveways. And we're talking police officers, school teachers, nurses, doctors. So we really need to have a deep understanding of the root cause of the problem and see how we can fix that problem. And the only way truly in the end is, and we should be looking at short-term solutions, where we are working with our partners in the towns and villages for accessory apartments and some multi-use facilities. But the real reality is we need an economic development of good paying, high paying jobs.
Anne?
No,
Okay.
I'll leave it there. I think it's critically important that we address our workforce housing. Sorry, Judy, I will too chime in. It's critically important that we address our workforce housing in whatever way possible, and working with the county and the towns and accessing state and federal funding is critically important so that we can keep our young people and our seniors in the community.
Okay. The next question about traffic. Anne can start that. What can the county do to help the East End with their horrendous traffic problems, not just on primary roads, but also on secondary roads?
So we can look at the roads that we have. County Road 39 is a bit of a conundrum because it's a state road with 27, where it's the divided highway, the 4-lane divided highway. And then it's county road for the 2.5 or 3 miles between the old Lobster Inn and the old Carvel. And then it changes to town road. So looking just at from a safety point of view, if we were to put in left-hand turn signals at the light at the college and the light at Tuckahoe School, though that would greatly increase things safety-wise. Traffic-wise, we have to work with Suffolk County DPW to make sure that all of the lights on County Road 39 are synced so that it's possible to keep the traffic moving, and so that it's possible to move as many. I believe the numbers from the traffic studies are it's tens of thousands of cars per day that traverse County Road 39. But really what we need to do is look to our alternatives. The pilot program that was developed by legislator Fleming because it came about as a result of funding that was taken away from a bus route, and a pilot program was developed with a bus that runs in the Sag Harbor Noyac area. That's an on-demand bus. It circulates through that area. There's an app on your phone. You can call it. It comes to you. I think that we need to look at that going forward as a possibility.
Annie?
So traffic. I know a little bit about traffic. Like I work for the state park, for the state park police. Traffic rotaries work. You only have to look at Jones Beach that handles 9 lanes of, handles 12 lanes of traffic. And roughly, I think it's something like 250,000 cars an hour at the Wantaw Ocean Parkway interchange. Naturally, we don't need anything like that of that magnitude, but we need to, again, think out of the box. We need to have a complete redesign and reinvestment in County Road 39. The last time there was an improvement made was 2008. We need to, like I said earlier, we need to invest in affordable workspace that is easily accessible to Long Island Railroad. Possibly we should be thinking about creating a East End Transportation Authority and taking over the assets of Long Island Railroad. That's been banted around from time to time. We all know we're paying MTA tax. You pay it on your cell phone and God knows everything else. And the services we get from the MTA are abysmal. So we really need to think out of the box. And I use that term a lot because we can't, it's the Einstein definition of insanity. You keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We need to do different things because we are at a stranglehold with traffic in the summertime. It's impacting the quality of life in all our residents, and understanding the governmental entities involved. We have State Route 27 that crosses over on a County Route 29 that goes back to a state road that leads all the way out to East Hampton, that ultimately at one point past Amagansett, it actually becomes a state parkway, which is a whole nother state agency. It's OPRHP dealing with that. So we need to have a thorough understanding and to revisit above and beyond all the entities that are out there and what's been proposed.
Rebuttal?
So looking to get some cars off the road between buses and also the Long Island Railroad. So Long Island Railroad is something that would have to happen with the MTA at the state level, but our railway system only has one set of tracks, so it's only possible for one train to move through at a time. There are, however, some antiquated sidings, and if those sidings were refurbished, there's one in Bridgehampton and there's one in Wainscott that I'm familiar with. And the possibility of a scoot train has been bandied about for many decades, from what I understand. A scoot train would consist of two cars, and it would run back and forth, perhaps between Hampton Bays and Bridgehampton multiple times a day. So because the South Fork commuter connection has been very effective, however, it's not a one-stop shop. We need more.
Annie?
No, and thank you for making my point. We need to reinvest in our transportation system. We need to do something different. We need to look at the assets of the MTA. They should have been improved years ago. Like I said, we've probably paid for tracks of gold 3 or 4 times over at this point, and we have not received the services. The overall MTA is rail, bus, working on a connection to our airports. So we really need to have a thorough thinking of what's going on and understanding the requirements and the need and what will be required if we were to go to create our own transportation authority to just take over those assets. It's complex legislation. I've done it in Albany. I know how to do it on the county side. We can get this done. And that will be one of my first initiatives upon taking office, if everybody votes me. All
right, this is the last question now before your closing statements. And we'll start with Manny. What is your position on the recent county position on refusing housing or refusing to take in refugees?
Sure. My position is very simple. We have a housing crisis. We have, like I said, young professionals that are living in campers in their parents' yards, or having to rent their house to be able to, a summer rental, to be able to afford to live here. We cannot absorb to publicly absorb migrants. We would be doing it at the expense of our local community. If we could create temporary summer housing, we should have already been doing it for years for our local community. I have to put our community first. I have to put our children or our seniors and our young individuals first, not to mention the whole broader overall. We know there is no vetting that's going on. We do not have a firm understanding. Taking the recent events of what occurred in Israel, I think we need to take a step back from this. The right decision was to oppose this. I'm glad the legislature was prepared to take a stance. I would be a voice in that camp. We got to take care of our local community. I cannot support creating migrant housing at the CDC Center, Southampton College, Grbesky Airport, or the West Hampton Coast Guard facility. We have enough problems already. This is a New York City problem. They wanted to be a sanctuary city. They need to deal with that issue. It's not that I'm unsympathetic. If somebody wants to open up their homes and bring them in and bring a migrant into their homes, absolutely. But if we're going to do this on a governmental side with government funding, we need to take care of our own housing crisis that we have first.
And
this is really a federal and a state issue. It's not a county issue. New York City is a sanctuary city, and therefore they are accepting the migrants, the immigrants. So Governor Hochul stated that counties would not be required or forced to accept the immigrants. So there's been a lot of fear that has been a part of this discussion, which is most unfortunate because we are a country of immigrants. So naturally, we want to take care of others, but in this case, this is simply not something that the county will be part of. It is absolutely a state issue and a federal issue.
Okay.
So just real quick, what New York City was looking to do, they really weren't looking for the county's permission. They were looking to rent hotels and rent space. There were discussions in Albany, because I actually had a small role in that, representing the state university police. So I was made aware that at one point the state was considering utilizing Southampton College, which is a SUNY Stony Brook College, and my members would have been the ones that were policing that. So we can't say this is just a federal and state issue. We need to do our due diligence. We need to work with our local leaders on our town and village levels, as well as our state leaders and our state senator for the East End, which is Tony Palumbo, as well as our other leaders up in Albany. And I'll be that voice to do that, having had all that experience.
Thank you. So there may have been discussions at some point for housing at Southampton Stony Brook. However, Governor Hochul unequivocally stated that counties would not be forced to accept immigrants. Thank you.
So now we come to the closing statements, and in reverse order. Ann Welker will begin, and that's a 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to all of you who took time out of your day or evening. Thank you to my opponent also. It takes courage to run for elected office, and I applaud not only my opponent, but the other candidates on this slate this year. There is a osprey nest at Southampton College's Marine Station, and the nesting pair there is named after my parents, Mary and Raoul Welker. And they're named after my parents not only to honor the history of Southampton College, but also to honor my dad's work on behalf of the marine environment. If I am fortunate enough to be elected to the Suffolk County Legislature, I will continue my work and build on my work as a Southampton Town trustee for the environment and our community on the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Villar?
Well, I too would like to thank everyone for giving us this opportunity in this forum for us to speak. I also would like to thank Ann. She has been an absolute pleasure on this campaign whenever we get together. And we have a lot of mutual friends, so I'm sure they'll all be biting their nails this November, coming to see what they're going to do. This is an incredible community. I loved growing up here as a kid. I have a long career of public service, and I'm in a great stage in my life to be able to do that. Like I said, I come with the endorsement of the Eastern Long Island Police Conference, which represents all our local municipal police on the east end of the island, as well as Suffolk SOA, DAI, Nassau County, and their SOA and DAI, and a multitude of other agencies and elected officials, from Senate Minority Leader Robert Ortt and Assembly Minority Leader Will Barkley. The pleasure has been absolutely mine tonight. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. And please keep in your hearts your thought and prayers, our brothers and sisters in Israel. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The League would like to thank you both for taking part in this debate and wish you good luck on Election Day, which is November 7th. Early voting begins on Saturday, October 28th, and runs through Monday, November 6th. Please contact your Board of Elections or your newspaper to find out the location of your early voting location and its hours. This program will be shown on channel 22 and also on YouTube's CTV station. So it'll be on an awful lot. You'll have a chance to watch it. And please, all of you watching, remember that your vote counts, most particularly in local elections like this one's, because some of the vote counts have been so close. So don't think that your vote doesn't count, because it does. And on behalf of Sue and I, thank you and good night.